Dear learners, welcome you all to e-learning platform. Now we have reached week 6. In this week, we are going to learn a new poem by W B Yeats, and that's Sailing to Byzantium, a historical place of interest, which is now today's Turkey, and previously during the Roman Empire, it was Constantinople. The capital city of present-day Turkey. So me, Faisal Ahmed, with you throughout the whole lecture. Faculty of English Literature, Department of English, World University of Bangladesh. Let's begin. So what we are doing in this lesson are introduction to the poem Sailing to Byzantium with a background, poem recitation with text, a brief synopsis and summary of the poem, form and style of the poem, literary devices and figures of speech used in this poem, critical commentary on the poem, major themes, critics' critique and other analysis. First of all, introduction to the poem Sailing to Byzantium with a background. W B Yeats wrote Sailing to Byzantium in 1927 when he was in his early 60s and published a year later in the Tower. It's a very popular poem by the poet. This poem fits in nicely with the literary movement in which it was written, modernism. Modernists often rebelled against tradition and celebrated self-discovery, which this poem does. It is also interesting to consider when Yeats wrote this poem. He wrote it fewer than 10 years before his death, which means he was an old man, just very close to his death. This is important since the speaker in this poem feels he is not appreciated in his homeland, Ireland, due to his advanced age, old age, and disability of aging. Perhaps Yeats was feeling alienated from his society for the same reasons. It uses a journey to Byzantium, Constantinople, as a metaphor for his spiritual journey. Byzantium is a loaded word for William Butler Yeats, a word rich with meaning. Byzantium refers to an earlier Yeats poem by that title and to the ancient name for Istanbul, capital of the Byzantine Empire of the 5th and 6th centuries. The Greek name Byzantium and its Latinization Byzantium continued to be used as a name of Constantinople sporadically and to varying degrees during the 1,000-year experience of the Byzantine Empire. Byzantium was colonized by the Greeks, by the Roman, and then it was again conquered by the Ottoman emperors. So colonized by the Greeks from Megara in 657 BC and remained primarily Greek-speaking until its conquest by the Ottoman Empire in 1453. Poem recitation with text. Sailing to Byzantium by W B Yeats. That is no country for old man. The young in one another's arms burst in the trees. Those dying generations at their song. The salmon falls, the mackerel crowded seas. Fish, flat or fowl, command all summer long. Whatever is begotten, born and dies, caught in that sensual music, all neglect, monuments of unaging intellect. An aged man is but a paltry thing, a tattered coat upon a stick, unless soul clap its hands and sing, and louder sing, for every tatter in its mortal dress, nor is there singing school, but studying monuments of its own magnificence. And therefore I have sailed the seas. I have sailed the seas and come to the holy city of Byzantium. O sages standing in God's holy fire, as in the gold mosaic of a wall, come from the holy fire, burn in a gyre, and be the singing masters of my soul. Consume my heart away, seek with desire, and fasten to a dying animal which knows not what it is, and gather me into the artifice of eternity. Once out of nature I shall never take my bodily form from any natural thing, but such a form as Grecian goldsmiths make of hammered gold and gold enameling, to keep a drowsy emperor awake, or set upon a golden bow to sing to lords and ladies of Byzantium of what is past or passing ought to come. A brief synopsis of the poem. The speaker, referring to the country that he has left, says that it is no country for old men. It is full of youth and life, with the young lying in one another's arms, birds singing in the trees and fish swimming in the waters. There all summer long the world rings with the sensual music that makes the young neglect the old, whom the speaker describes as monuments of unaging intellect. An old man, the speaker says, is a paltry thing, merely a tattered coat upon a steed, unless his soul can clap its hands and sing, and the only way for the soul to learn how to sing is to study monuments of his own magnificence. Therefore, the speaker has sailed the seas and come to the holy city of Byzantium. The speaker addresses the sages standing in God's holy fire, as in the gold mosaic of a wall, and asks them to be his soul's singing masters. He hopes they will consume his heart away, for his heart knows not what it is. It is sick with desire and fastened to a dying animal, and the speaker wishes to be gathered into the artifice of eternity. The speaker says that once he has been taken out of the natural world, he will no longer take his bodily form from any natural thing, but rather will fashion himself as a singing bird made of hammered gold, such as Grecian goldsmiths make to keep a drowsy emperor awake, or set upon a tree of gold to sing to lords and ladies of Byzantium, or what is past or passing ought to come. Form and structure of the poem. The 4 8-line stanzas of Sailing to Byzantium take a very old verse form. So 4 8-line stanzas, that means 32 lines. 8 times 4. 4 times 8, 32. They are metered in iambic pentameter and rhyme AB, 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 CC. 2 trios of alternating rhyme followed by a couplet. Literary devices used in the poem. This poem contains several literary devices. The title of the poem, Sailing to Byzantium, is a reference to the metaphorical journey of an old man toward the center of classicism. Besides, Byzantium is a metonym for the art of ancient Byzantium. Apart from that, the poem begins with a litot. There is an alliteration in the phrase, fish, flesh, or fowl. Thereafter, the last 2 lines of the first stanza contain irony. The second stanza begins with an epigram The poet also uses onomatopoeia in these stanzas. Thereafter, one can find the use of an apostrophe at the beginning of the third stanza. Here the poet uses some metaphors such as the singing masters of my soul and artifice of eternity. The last stanza contains an allusion to the classical art of Byzantium. Critical appreciation, title and reference. The title of the poem Sailing to Byzantium is a reference to the metaphorical journey of an old man toward the center of classicism. Besides, Byzantium is a metonym for the art of ancient Byzantium. Yeats' poems are continually referenced in popular culture, including the poem Sailing to Byzantium. Its first line, that is, No Country for Old Men, was used for the title of Cormac McCarthy's popular novel No Country for Old Men, later adapted for the big screen or movie. You can watch the movie No Country for Old Men. Critical appreciation, critics, critic. W B Yeats' poem Sailing to Byzantium has been commented on several times by several critics. Giving his remarks on this poem, John Unterricher says, the poem prepares the way for a whole group of comments on the passionate old man as a symbol for the tyranny of time. About the possible literary sources of this poem, the other critic says, the poem itself embodies Blake's proposition that eternity is in love with the productions of time, but Harold Bloom does not agree with him, as he believes that the vision of the poem as well as its repudiation of nature is more Shelleyan than Blakean. Critical appreciation, theme. Yeats presents several themes in this poem. First of all, Sailing to Byzantium presents the theme of spirituality. Here the poet refers to a different kind of spirituality that does not center on the concept of asceticism. The speaker is more concerned with the study of artworks that elevates the intellectual capacity of the soul. Therefore, one can find themes of old age versus youth, culture, art, and eternity. This poem deals with the contrast between old age and youth. Youth, according to the poet, is a time of enjoyment of worldly pleasures, while old age is all about how one utilizes one's wisdom for the betterment of the soul. Moreover, the poet talks about the dying culture of his time. Lastly, Yeats also talks about the rule of classical art and its magnificence that can last for eternity. Yeats presents critical appreciation, commentary. Sailing to Byzantium is Yeats' definitive statement about the agony of old age and the imaginative and spiritual work required to remain a vital individual even when the heart is fastened to a dying animal, that is metaphorically the body. Yeats' solution to aging and the disability of old age, along with a calling of death, is to leave the country of the young and travel to Byzantium for spiritual salvation, where the sages in the city's famous gold mosaics, completed mainly during the 6th and 7th centuries, could become the singing masters of his soul. He hopes the sages will appear in fire and take him away from his body into an existence outside time, where, like a great work of art, he could exist in the artifice of eternity. In the astonishing final stanza of the poem, he declares that once he is out of his body, he will never again appear in the form of a natural thing. Rather, he will become a golden bird sitting on a golden tree, singing of the past, what is past, the present, that which is passing, and the future, that which is to come. And that's the end of the lesson of this week. Thank you very much for being with me, and with a new lesson next week. See you again. That's all. Bye bye.